Brina Piorwyth.
Diolch Dirprwy Lywydd ag Eina, diolch am ddatganiad y pnawn yma. Diolch hefyd am y sesiynau briffio sydd wedi cael ei ddarparu i ni fel gwrthbleidiau ddydd Sul a heddiw yma yn gynharach heddiw dwi'n edrych ymlaen at weld y math yna o ddeialog yn parhau, achos dwi'n meddwl i fod yn bwysig iawn bod yr hyder yna yn y cyhoedd, bod y cama mae'r Llywodraeth yn ei cymryd, rhai cyfrifol i'w cymryd, a mae sut mae hynny'n cael ei gyfathrebu efo ni ag i'r cyhoedd yn bwysig iawn wrth reswm. Mi allwn ni ofyn cannoedd y gwestiynau i chi, pnawn yma, nai ddim. Dwi'n gwybod gawn ni ddigon o gyfleon i ofyn y gwestiynau hynny. Mae'n ambell i beth yn anharo fi a na i ddefnyddio'r cyfle yma i ofyn yr rheini. Yn gyntaf, cwestiwn gafodd i ofyn yn gynharach gan Adam Price yn fan hyn, a mae yna gyffwrdd wedi bod yna fo eto, sef yr wybodaeth sy'n cael ei rannu gan iechyd y cyhoedd y Cymru, a pa mor aml mae'r wybodaeth hwnnw'n cael ei rannu. Mi ddwedodd y Prif Weinidog, neu mi awgrymodd y Prif Weinidog bod data yn cael ei rannu yn ddyddiol. Da chithau wedi awgrymu hynny bod y gwybodaeth yn cael ei rannu am 3 gloch bob pnawn. Yn ôl dwi'n ddeall ac yn ôl gwefan iechyd cyhoeddus Cymru, bod yna wybodaeth yn cael ei rannu yn ddyddiol, dydy'r data ynglyn â faint o brofion sydd wedi cael eu cymryd, pryna'n brofion negyddol neu bositif, ddim yn cael ei rhannu ond yn wythnosol. Tybed allach chi gadarnhau be ydy'r sefyllfa a gofyn a wnaeth iechyd cyhoeddus Cymru sicrhau bod y data yn ogystal â'r naratif dyddiol fel petai yn cael ei ddiweddaru o ddydd i ddydd yn hytrach na wythnos wrth wythnos. O ran 111, dwi'n anfalch iawn bod hwnnw rwan yn rhif sy'n gallu cael ei gyrraedd ym lle bynnag mae pobl yng Nghymru, a allwn ni gael syniad o'r adnodda ychwanegol sydd wedi cael ei paratoi mwyn galluogi hynny i ddigwydd rwan. A fel cwestiwn ymylol y bosib, ydy hyn yn ddechrau ar ddarparu 111 ym mhob rhan o Gymru, rhywbeth dwi'n gobeithio fydda yn digwydd. A nina ar ddiwrnod y gyllideb, mi fyddwn ni'n gwerthfawrogi chydig o sylwadau ehangach ynglyn â'r adnodda ychwanegol yr ydych chi wedi ei sicrhau neu'r ydych chi'n ceisio ei sicrhau gan y gweinidog cyllid mwyn sicrhau yn bod ni yn yr sefyllfa gryfa posib fel gwlad i ymateb i covid19. Gai ofyn hefyd, mae yna gynlluniau cychwynnol yn cael ei datblygu yn ôl dwi'n ddeall i o bosib agor y drws i feddygon sydd wedi gadael y proffesiwn neu sydd wedi ymddeol i ddod yn ôl pe bai yna bwysau ar weithlu gwasanaeth iechyd. Pa gyngor sydd yna i'r gweithwyr iechyd hynny sydd yn barod yn y sefyllfa anodd yma i wneud y gwaith ychwanegol i gefnogi yr cyhoedd o fewn yn gwasanaeth iechyd ni? Pa gyngor sydd yna iddyn nhw ar sut y gallan nhw gofrestru ymlaen llaw, os liciwch chi, cyn i'r manylion gael eu cwblhau, fel yn bod ni'n gallu cryfhau y gweithlu iechyd pe bai angen hynny. Cwpl o bwyntiau ar fater o egwyddor. Mi wnaethoch chi yn gywir iawn gondemnio'r rhagfarn a'r sylwadau hiliol sydd wedi cael ei clywed mewn cysylltiad a ymlediad yr haint yma. Allwn ni ofyn i chi wneud sylw ehangach ynglyn â'r angen i drin pobl sydd mewn self-isolation, os liciwch chi, efo urddas a pharch, achos mae'n bwysig iawn bod pobl yn gwybod pa fath o lefel o driniaeth y dylen nhw allu disgwyl ei gael gan wladwriaeth, gan gymuned anhwtha, yn teimlo wrth gwrs mewn sefyllfa fregus iawn o fod wedi cael ei rhoi mewn self-isolation. Mae wedi dod i'r amlwg hefyd bod Marco Vunipola bellach ddim yn mynd i fod yn gallu chwarae yn y gêm 6 gwlad rhwng Cymru a Lloegr y penwythnos yma oherwydd i fod wedi mynd i mewn i self-isolation. Tybed be ydych chi'n... Yn gyntaf, pa fath o drafodaethau sydd yn digwydd efo cyrff fel Undeb Rygbi Cymru a chlybiau pêl-droed ac ati o gwmpas digwyddiadau mawr fel hyn sy'n dod â pobl at ei gilydd. Ond yn fwy pwysig o bosib, be mae'r ffaith bod mae cofwni pola wedi mynd i self-isolation? A gyntaf ddim yn dangos arwyddion o'r haint, ond wedi bod mewn sefyllfa lle gall fod yn aberig. Dwi'n deall fod wedi hedfan drwy Hong Kong. Be mae hynny'n ei ddeud wrthyn ni am yr angen i bobl fod yn ymwybodol o'r posibilrwydd y gallan nhw fod wedi cael eu heintio, ac i gymryd cama synhwyrol i'w diogelu eu hunain ag eraill o'i cwmpas nhw, tra'n balansio hynny wrth gwrs efo'r angen, fel ydych chi'n deud, i bobl beidio mynd i ryw fath o gonsern mawr yn gyffredinol. Ac yn ola, eto'n cyfeirio at sylwadau godwyd gan Adam Price yn gynharach heddiw yma o ran y cyfrifoldeb ar gyflogwyr. Dwi wedi codi hyn efo chi o'r blaen fel Llywodraeth yn gofyn i chi roi cyfarwyddyd clir o'ch disgwyliadau chi gan gyflogwyr cyfrifol yng Nghymru. Dydy deddfwriaeth cyflogaeth ddim wedi cael ei ddatganoli, ond dwi'n meddwl bod yna gyfeiriad y gallai cael, neu disgwyliad y gallai cael ei osod gan Lywodraeth Cymru o ran ymddygiad cyflogwyr. Mi alla cyflogwyr anghyfrifol gweithleoedd lle mae disgwyl i bobl droi fyny'r gwaith beth bynnag i cyflwr iechyd nhw fod yn peryglu iechyd pobl eraill. Felly, a fyddwch chi yn gwneud datganiadau rwan neu dros y dyddi ar wythnosau nesaf ynglyn â'ch disgwyliadau chi, ynglyn â'r angen i gyflogwyr fel pawb arall o fewn y cymuned, gymryd y cama synhwyrol hynny sydd ei angen mwyn sicrhau bod diogelwch y cyhoedd yn cael ei warchod.
Yes, thank you for the questions. On the data that Public Health Wales provide, they provide a regular update on the situation in Wales to see if there is any change in the guidance available every day at 3 o'clock. Public Health England publish on behalf of the UK figures each day, including confirmed cases. In terms of the approach that I set out that we're going to take here in Wales, we need to think about whether it's proportionate and useful to provide data on each day on the number of tests carried out. I think actually the challenge about confirming cases is entirely different to the number of tests being carried out. And some of that is still a moving feast. I do think the confirmed cases and where they are, and for example, if there were to be a change in the way we are providing treatment for people, if we reached a point in time where the current capacity that all 4 nations in the UK have agreed to concentrate on 4 places in England, for example, at treating people with confirmed cases, if that was changed, we'd often need to provide that as well. But I'm not completely sure providing daily information on the tests being carried out is going to take us further forward and providing useful information to the public as opposed to the outcomes of those tests. But that's a matter that I'm happy to continue to consider, but the Public Health England site actually provides data for the whole of the UK about the number of confirmed cases, and that is updated on a daily basis. In terms of resources at this point now have more been about people than money. And it's how we're using the resources we have available to us, both within the government and within the NHS family and partner agencies. So I don't have a specific financial ask to make of the Finance Minister, who has helpfully returned at this point in time. That's partly because we can't definitively predict the impact across the whole range of activity within the government and indeed with partners. It may be the case that there is a significant financial impact. It may be that that isn't the case. It's partly because we're not at this point in time able to predict with the necessary accuracy what that impact might be and how money could help to do so. However, it is a matter that is part of our active discussions at each of the COBRA calls about whether or not there is a need for there to be a financial injection to make additional measures that are necessary for public health to happen. Now, the Chancellor has already briefed that he's asked his officials to look at the potential impact of coronavirus ahead of the UK budget on the 11th of March. I actually think we're going to need to see what may be necessary in terms of contingency and to look not just, if you like, about straight Barnett share for everything that may or may not happen, but actually to think about the actual impact of the condition because maybe the different parts of the UK see differential impact. Wales could be fortunate and escape relatively lightly compared to other parts of the UK, or we could have a differential impact, or the impact will be evenly spread across each of the 4 nations. And I'm actually, in my perspective, is that I want to see resources go where the need requires those resources to go. And in directing need, again, that will be based on the advice of the science, but also of our Chief Medical Officer about where and how we make the biggest difference. In terms of speeding up return to practice for retired staff, that would require some change in UK legislation. That's a matter that's under active consideration with a potential bill. And of course, we still have a 4 nations perspective on most matters of registration. So there are UK, these are reserved powers, and they're things that we would actually support, though. That's why it's in the joint action plan that all 4 governments have signed up to as a matter to consider. I completely agree with your point about dignity for people in self-isolation. There's a point on how the public generally behave if someone is self-isolating, and so that point about prejudice and people's concern, but equally then about the remote contact people can still have while people are in a period of self-isolation. For most of us, the idea of being at home for 14 days may initially sound rather attractive, but actually 14 days on your own, at home, not having normal access to things, actually I think it is actually quite difficult for people. And even where we have managed larger isolation for the first 2 flights back from China, for example, that's been difficult for people who have gone through that, and we do need to understand that. In terms of the point about guidance for major events, we know that the 6 nations are taking this already seriously. Football authorities are already thinking ahead to the FIFA finals and the potential impact of that, because of course it's taking place across a dozen cities within Europe. And if we're still in a containment phase, then actually that may affect the way that some of those events do or don't take place. We've already seen the decision taken about the Italy-Ireland game as well. So there are conversations that can take place, and we want to make sure that we don't end up leading the conversation by making an announcement before a conversation taking place with where it's a sporting body or any other large event about what the appropriate advice is, but again to do so on the basis of appropriate advice that is given. And I'd want to seek the direct advice of our own CMO about whether to ask people to not run events in those circumstances, and we may then end up considering whether there would need to be ministerial powers to do so, but that would be part of a conversation about the bill. And again, the requirements for any power to be exercised if they existed would really have to be led by there being a genuine emergency situation within the country at large. On travel advice, again, the Foreign and Commonwealth Office website is a definitive source of guidance about travel. The Welsh Government has repeated that and referred to it in our own guidance that is publicly available, also repeated through the information that Public Health Wales provide about the way that people behave in the here and now, but also in the future as well. And on your point about employers, there's a secondary point I want to make about lenders. But on employers, again, as I say, we've raised points both between officials but also in ministerial conversations about statutory sick pay. I wanted to see that paid from day 1, because that would mean that people who do need to follow advice to self-isolate aren't concerned about the potential challenge for them and their family. If they don't do so, there's a financial penalty in doing so. But also my Labour colleague Jonathan Ashworth asked Matt Hancock in the House of Commons earlier about the potential for legislation to consider those people who are not just part of the gig economy, but those people on 0 hours, to try to make sure if there are measures that could be taken to make sure that they don't suffer a loss of income that could see them otherwise continue to go into work as opposed to following the appropriate advice to self-isolate. And the final part of it was on about not just about employers and, if you like, the soft power government can have to have conversations with those employers' organisations, but it's a point about lenders as well. If we were to reach a point where coronavirus had a much wider impact on the way that people conduct public life, whether small, medium or large businesses, but not wanting to see lenders take precipitate action that could cause an otherwise decent business that should continue to potentially collapse through the potential issues that coronavirus may provide. And so those are conversations that are taking place both in terms of what each government may do individually, but in particular the Chancellor's ability at a UK level to have some of those conversations with the way that lenders themselves behave. So you can see this isn't just a health issue, it really is a whole government, whole society potential impact if we move to the stage where we do reach pandemic status. But at this point in time today, people should go about their normal day-to-day business. their normal way of behaving, and to repeat the advice that has gone on before, to catch it, kin it, bill it, and to take seriously advice and guidance that people are given by public health authorities.